Hey there guys, how's it going? So, Kingdom Hearts Union Cross is in version 3.3.0 in Japan right now, and expectedly will come out at the same time as Mario for the rest of the world. But they've also got a brand new medal in the game, being Pirate Sora. So, anyone that was following Robaloid on social media knew this was coming, given that he seems to have figured out a way of figuring out which new medals are being added into the game, but shh, don't tell, just follow him on Twitter and check that out. Very interesting medal, probably the most unique medal we've seen in the game so far. It is the literal definition of a glass cannon, in that it hits absurdly, ridiculously, utterly, stupidly strong, and I'm talking beyond anything we've ever seen anywhere close to this before. But the medal itself has literally barely any defense whatsoever, and I'm talking like less than 3 digits worth of defense. And it also nukes all your defenses into the ground. We'll talk about it more in a second. The way you obtain it, of course, they're going back to the split VIP and split free-to-play if you were banners, in which case, just like the ones before, if you want to pull off the VIP banner, it's a 1 in 3 chance of getting the medal that you want after 5 pulls. Or if you want to pull on this scummy, disgusting poverty banner, like me, you have to do 10 pull mercy to end up with 1 in 3 medals, and those 1 in 3 will be either the Blade Form Sora, Key Art 20, or the new Pirate Boy Sora. So, certainly not a guarantee the way that it used to be as a mercy, but if you want to take the 1 in 3 risk, you can do it either way. It's a pretty good one to pull on a VIP banner though, given that you've got 2 25k strength medals, and now this ridiculous thing with 50,000 strength. 50,000, yes, you heard that right, 50,000 strength. So, despite the fact these two are well above a lot of other medals in the game right now, being 25,000, Pirate Sora has 50,000. We'll talk about it in a sec. And for this occasion, I've gone ahead and remade my little medal cards here. So I've switched the order around a little bit. Hopefully it's a bit more readable in terms of the flow. But I'm still workshopping it, and I'll probably keep changing it again. But anyway, as you may see right there, I've said 47,000 strength in the corner. So if you give it 3,000 chips and dales, it'll add up to 50,000 like we know. For all the Supernova Plus medals, can end up with 50k. 50 freaking k. Again, just horrific. Like, Roxas was already like crazy powerful at 30,000. A significant leap above all other medals. This thing is 50,000. Awful. Like, a power creep implies a slow crawl that you barely even notice. This is not a creep. This is an absurd leap in damage, which is... Alright, so the gimmick is, when you cast this thing, you lose all of your buffs and debuffs. You are overwritten down to -15 for general, PSM, and upright and reverse. As well as that, not only does it cost 9 gauges to use, and that's of course a 9 there, not a 6 upside down. How could you be so silly? It costs 9 gauges to use, and it also consumes another 30 gauges from you. The idea of this thing is to make you completely and utterly sapped of all your strength, all your gauges, everything, and all your defenses, so you're wide open for attack in the next turn. Here's the thing though, we can get around that. We'll talk about building status for it in a second. In terms of the multiplier, if you look at the medal's actual page, it will say 1.0 to 17. 1.0 is correct. The gimmick here again is that if there is any more than one enemy on the screen, it will only deal a 1.0 multiplier. And again, if you guilt that, it turns into 3.8. But it's exactly as effective as tapping before it's guilted, which is pretty ridiculous. If you are facing only one enemy though, the multiplier will read 17, which if you guilt that is 64.0. If you have a pretty standard 250% boost, that is 107.1. And because it is the month of June, for the remainder of the month of June, it falls under a 200% additional booster, meaning its multiplier is at 141.1. And if I was to show you guys that on my graph, there would be all the medals that you usually see in about the 70 to 80 range, and then it would be 141. And again, that's coming off strength, which is, you know, if regular medals sit at around 25 to 30,000, it's coming off 50,000 strength. It is so utterly broken. I can't believe they even thought of making a medal like this, and they thought, oh, but it's okay, it'll consume all your gauges, as if that somehow matters. In PvE situations, we'll talk about it in a second. Its Supernova hits with a 220 multiplier, again, the highest multiplier in the game right now, and again, coming off 50,000 strength, so just, again, stupidly powerful, and that has no restrictions on it whatsoever, and it also gives you back a paltry 5 gauges, which is kind of funny. Let's talk about using this thing in a setup. So in game right now, we have either PvE content, which can be against literally the PvE Coliseum, or regular difficult bosses, what have you. We've also got PvP, and we've got raiding. I can't make a case for using this thing in raiding, unless you want to go ahead and use it as the final slot, but I feel like it'd be so much overkill with the current level of power the bosses have and the current level of HP that you probably wouldn't want to sacrifice this thing as a rating medal. I can't see that happening. In PvP, this medal will be competing with other upright magic medals in terms of, viability on your Keyblades, and as ludicrously powerful as that medal is, it will never be able to do a defense break. Unless, of course, there's a medal added into the future, Naminé style, that gives the next medal defense break potential. Pray for us if that ever happens, but as powerful as it is, I'd have to actually get a copy myself and do the math on it, but I figure that surely a medal like, Illustrated Aqua, Illustrated Terra, Montesora, especially Montesora with its 30% chance to break, would be better suited in that third slot there on Fairy Stars, or wherever you decide to end up putting it, just because as powerful as it is, a Defense Boost 5 max is going to block 90% of that damage, whereas if Montesora or Illustrated Terra or Illustrated Aqua get a few hits to break through, I imagine that they're 100% damage plus. Alright, so I'm just actually gone ahead and done the math on that. Without taking into account buffs or anything else, just purely on the numbers, 50,000 strength by a multiplier of, ignoring the 200% booster, 101.7 is 5.3 million damage. And factoring in that a regular defense boost 5 is going to block 90% of that, that's roughly 500,000 damage. And now again, we're ignoring buffs and debuffs and everything else. Montesora has, let's say, about 20 and a bit thousand strength with a 42.94 multiplier. If we assume that 30% of that is going to go through Unbroken, that's 237,000. If we assume that 70% of that is going to be blocked by defense boost, defense boost 5, so 90% of that 70% will be blocked. That's about 60,000 damage going through, plus the 257 on average that would be unbroken. I'm saying about 310,000 damage will go through a Montesora on average, compared to Pirate Sora doing 535. Now again, that's just a really quick basic sketch, ignoring any sort of buffs and debuffs, and again, I'd have to test it myself. I don't actually own a Montesora, so I can't test this, but I'm kind of scared that Pirate Sora is actually better in PvP than Montesora is, even though Montesora is built to be a PvP killer, which, that's just terrific. So, if anyone wants to test that for me with both medals, please go ahead and do that. Unfortunately, I doubt I'll be able to. But I was mainly thinking of this thing's use as a PvE medal in terms of PvE content, like let's say, for example, Organization 13 events, where you usually have one powerful enemy, maybe flanked by some little guys, but particularly one powerful enemy, and you have to go and contend against him. What would you do in that scenario? Well, it sounds like a pretty good deal on paper because the hit's so hard, but you have to factor in a lot of these fights take multiple rounds, and you want to be surviving those rounds if you can. You want to be taking hits, and this medal will leave you completely gaugeless and with no defenses to speak of whatsoever. So what can you do about that? Well, the answer is actually plenty. If we go ahead and build a setup like this, for example, let's say you have two medals at the front on Fairy Stars, and then you have a medal like Pete. Pete's Supernova effect is that by slot 4, he will give you back 30 gauges. In most cases, completely refilling your Keyblade. Now, the reason I put him in slot 4 there is because, again, in PvP, that will activate automatically. So you don't even have to worry about gauge use or anything. All you need to know is that, okay, by slot 3, I've gone ahead and used Pirate Sora, and then on slot 4, bang, immediately back up to 30 gauges, and you continue as if nothing happened whatsoever. Now, I've put Ienzo on the back here. I specifically mentioned Xemnas because he's a magic type enemy. Pirate Sora will overwrite you all the way down to negative 15 in every single defense possible, including upright and reverse. This will put you back up to 15 general and 15 magic. Now, the cool thing about that is that currently, now this may change in the future, but currently, enemies are either power, strength, or magic. Upright and reverse doesn't really factor into it. So, even though Pirate Sora may debuff you down to negative 15 upright and negative 15 reverse, in terms of PvE, I don't think that matters at all. Now, again, that could change, and I especially think it might change in the September update, but for the next few months, I'm pretty sure we're scot-free in that regard. And again, the reason I chose Ienzo specifically and Xemnas as an example is because the only relevant defenses you care about are general and magic against a single target enemy like him. And Ienzo overwrites you back to plus 15 in both of those. You could easily combo like this, and all the negative effects of Pirate Sora are completely wiped away, but the huge friggin' benefits of getting his Supernova out, getting his regular attack out are preserved. It could be completely insane. And if you wanted to, again, remembering that Ienzo's uprights, the Supernova gives you back 15 PSM, you just pop the Supernova as well, and again have no repercussions whatsoever from using it. Horrifying, horrifying stuff. And also, lest we forget, copycat medals, allowing us to have the fun more than one time per turn. Now, of course, the big appeal about Pirate Sora is his 50k strength, and using especially the older copycat medals with their, what seems like a joke of only 14k strength right now, may seem like maybe not the best idea, but still, that multiplier is so huge that it could be worth it. If you do want to do that, be aware that you will still have to pay for it. Given that Pirate Sora does have that negative 30 gauge effect behind it, you're still going to have to pay for it somehow. So if you want to go, let's say, Vanitas or Demyx into Pirate Sora, you'll have to restore gauges in between that. And again, if you're relying on that to happen automatically in PvP, you'll need some sort of, you know, triggers before slot 3 Supernova to give you back some gauges to actually be able to have at least 9 to pull that attack off. If you want to copy backwards with, let's say, Riku Replica, or another one of the medals that copies backwards, maybe like Cypher, Ray, or Fu in the later slots to copy backwards, same sort of deal, make sure you have at least the gauges to pull that attack off. Again though, 50k strength is one of the big appeals here, but still, no matter what you do, it's still going to hurt, let's say that much. And now that I think about it, extra attack on this medal actually wouldn't be so great, given that you'll have to be using a Supernova in between casts every single time you want to pull this thing off, and you know, in multiple turns, that may not be possible. In PvP, the computer certainly will never let you do that because it's always going to be a case of, like, there are no effects that activate mid-slot, for example, so it may be worth going for additional strength over EA if you get the chance to. Interesting. In terms of the PvE Colosseum, obviously strength is king there, but again, almost every single round is going to have multiple enemies, and the only 2 that don't. Shoutouts to Robolo for the awesome guides that he puts out. Again, I must reinstate, follow Robolo on Twitter and Reddit as well. He's amazing guy. The only 2 rounds which will only have 1 enemy in it, which is of course where this medal shines, are round 3 and round 6, which feature an enemy that scales up ridiculously powerful, so probably not going to be super useful in the PvE Colosseum, unless you can somehow take out all the other enemies first and leave only 1 remaining, where it can do big damage on the end, but in Colosseum it's not super likely that's going to happen. But I'm really curious to see, what do you guys think? Are you going to be pulling for this medal? I think it's incredibly unique, and I would kind of like to have a copy, I'm not gonna lie, just because of how potentially useful this thing is. It terrifies me that they may soon balance content around a medal like this, or other ones with extremely high strength. I hope this doesn't become a trend, because, man, I just got that Roxas medal, and I was really enjoying it, and now thinking, like, holy crap, they can make this thing the new standard really quickly if they wanted to. But let me know what you guys think. Are you just terrified? Are you like, yep, typical Kingdom Hearts Union Cross with the power creep? Anyway, alright guys, I'll see you really soon. All the best. Bye.